Hello and welcome to the Front to Back podcast, a program about music appreciation. I'm your host, Jackson Wisdorf, and each week I will be picking an album from my personal record collection, and you guessed it, playing it from the first track all the way to the last track, while throwing in some commentary about the album's history and a few other little factoids here and there. A new album each week is the goal, with the genre and attitude of each album changing from week to week. Nothing is off the table, so let's get it started. The Front to Back podcast starts now. Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Front to Back podcast. It's Jackson here with you. Last week, we took a look at Mad Villainy, the monumental, groundbreaking 2004 collaboration between MF Doom and Madlib, aka Mad Villain. It was the 5th episode, big deal, had to switch it up, went to some hip-hop, changing genres yet again this week for episode 6. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at LA-based All La Laws, a neo-psychedelia, surf rock, garage rock band. Hard to classify them into one particular genre, definitely a flashback tribute to the sound of mid to late 60s psychedelic music. But we're going to be looking at their second album, Worship the Sun. A psychedelic music, a genre of music that has expanded and reinvented itself so much, especially in a very small amount of time in the early to mid 60s, but it continues to grow and develop to this day. On today's episode, we are taking a look at a group that continues the expansion of the genre of psychedelic music, taking inspirations from groups such as the Byrds, Love, The Human Expression, but at the same time adding unique twists of their own. Though All La Laws gets grouped in with other bands that take inspirations from the psychedelic music of the 60s, they personally don't believe in the classification of music in terms of time. In an interview with faceculture.com, frontman Miles Machad and drummer Matthew Correa stated their opinion, saying that they listen to music based on the sound and the inspiration it can give to the listener, as opposed to being concerned on what year it was put out or being able to classify it. So be aware, while this album is playing, the All La Laws are bringing to the table their own interpretation of the music they grew up listening to, not trying to blindly imitate anyone. With this album, the All La Laws were attempting to let the listener experience the spirit and history of Los Angeles, California, a town that has had such big inspiration on all music, not only psychedelic music. Innovative Leisure, the label that has put out both of the All La Laws full-length LPs, their debut and Worship the Sun, had this to say about the album. I thought it was a great explanation of the album, so I figured I'd add it to the intro. Quote, All La Laws' second album, Worship the Sun, expands on the sound established by their maiden effort, honoring the fusion of West Coast garage rock and roll, Latin percussion, and electric folk. As richly textured and timeless as a Southern California beach break, the songs are evocative of Los Angeles' storied past. Beatniks, artists, surfers, nomads, remnants of a bygone Sunset Strip, golden tans, and cosmic sunsets. One can feel the warmth of the sun, but the band definitely avoids the kitsch so often indulged by lovers of these things, end quote. Great way of describing the album. Like every episode, going to be playing the album from front to back. This one not going to be as long. It's not a double LP like last week's album was. Still a 12-song LP, as well as 2 bonus tracks. I'm going to have those sprinkled in throughout the album, not just clustered at the end. I'm going to have one for each side of the album. Kind of just squeezed them in where I thought they would sound good. I think we can go ahead and get this started off, though. Started off with the first half of Side A. Gonna have 3 songs, starting with Davida Voz. Had It All after that, and Artifact. A great way to start off the album with Davida Voz. A wonderful expression of California. The song makes me feel like I'm in the deserts of Southern California. Just very expansive sounds, really raw energy coming through in the music and the composition. So let's get this episode of the Front to Back podcast started. The first track of Side A of the All La Laws second album, Worship the Sun, Davida Voz. I'll catch you after 3 tracks for a little more history about the album. Let's get it started. Welcome back. It's the Front to Back podcast, officially done with the first half of Side A of All Allah's second album. Came out back in 2014, Worship the Sun. A great album. You just heard Artifact. Had it all before that, and starting it off with Davida Voz. 3 tracks that show the expansiveness of this band and what they can really do. Taking ideas from their self-titled debut album that came out back in 2012 and expanding upon them. Showing what they can do with a little bit more time, some more instrumentation, but still keeping that classic mid to late 60s sound. One of the bands that I consider them most similar to is the Byrds. It's that kind of psychedelic folk sound that they do very well, but they do it with their own personal little twist. Well, we're now officially done with the first half of Side A. This album was released in September of 2014 on Innovative Leisure Records. The second album released by the All Allahs and the follow-up to their 2012 self-titled debut album. The band personnel included on the album: Michael Mashad on guitar, piano, and vocals, Pedram Siadashian on guitar, vibes, and vocals, Spencer Dunham on bass and vocals, Matthew Correa on drums, percussion, and vocals, and Dan Horn pulling double duty, not just a producer and engineer on the album, but playing pedal steel on a couple of the tracks. Speaking of the production of the album, Nick Waterhouse, the executive producer of the album, also produced the band's debut album, and he is also an artist on Innovative Leisure Records. Dan Horn as a producer and engineer on the album, along with that pedal steel. Gavin Paddock, engineer. The album was mastered by Dave Cooley, and the album layout and design are by Matthew Correa, drummer, percussionist, vocalist of the band, and Robbie Simon, a friend of the band. I love the design on this album. Just a simple orange and white with a couple of different designs on the front and the back of the album. The version of the album that I own has the gatefold, including pictures of the band. Really beautiful scenery included on that gatefold as well. All of the members of the band hail from the greater Los Angeles area. Spencer, Miles, and Matthew had known each other since high school, meeting Pedram while working at Amoeba Records. All members of the band worked at Amoeba Records, one of the premier record stores in the United States. Pedram and Spencer had been jamming for a little while before the group was official. They're each also working on their own material, bedroom tapes, and stuff like that. All four would soon get together, practicing in basements and playing small shows, including one of the first show that they said in an interview with Huffington Post that was at a small Halloween party, where they did not even have any songs completed. They had no beginnings, no ends. They kind of just winged it, but everyone seemed to like it, so they continued to keep on going. They would later say they don't know if their friends that were in attendance of the party said that it was good just to be nice, or if they were actually sincere. I'm sure it sounded pretty good. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the second half of side A of Worship the Sun. Nothing to Hide, No Werewolf, one of the bonus tracks, threw it in right there, second to the end. Recurring, and the second half of side A starts off with one of three instrumentals included on this album, and this is a absolutely beautiful instrumental, and my favorite instrumental that I heard in all of 2014. It is so good. It evokes just such a feeling, and it's called Ferris Gallery. Now, Ferris Gallery was a art gallery that was opened in 1957 in Los Angeles, and it wasn't open for very long. It closed in 1966, but it was a very notable gallery in Los Angeles, displaying works of Andy Warhol, Wallace Berman, Billy Al Bengston, Ed Moses, Robert Irwin, John Mason, and many more influential artists of the California and greater Los Angeles area. Temporarily closed in 1957 after undercover LAPD officers arrested and charged Wallace Berman with obscenity over his work that was included in the exhibition, and it was actually his first and last solo show there. But Ferris Gallery, a very historical part of Los Angeles, going in tune with the album Worship the Sun, that it's the experience of Southern California and Los Angeles, to give the listener a soundtrack of the history of Los Angeles, which I think is a very great idea. So let's go ahead and finish off side A of the album. We're going to start it off with Ferris Gallery. It's going to be 4 songs, and I will be back to start side B of the Allah's Worship the Sun. It's the Front to Back podcast. Thanks again for stopping by. Here is Ferris Gallery.
trade it for another. If life's a shining jewel to a do-I owe relation, I think I know the golden rule, but it gets lost in translation. So tell me how to feel. Should I worry that I've done wrong? 'Cause I don't
And with that track, we are officially through side A of Worship the Sun, the sophomore album by the LA-based psychedelic surf rock band All All Laws. You just heard Nothing to Hide, No Werewolf before that. No Werewolf was a bonus track, one of the ones I mentioned earlier on, not included on the wax of the album, but available to those who purchased it through MP3 download. No Werewolf, a cover of a song originally by a group called The Frantics out of Seattle, Washington, although their version was just titled Werewolf. Also known as the Four Frantics. Other than All All Laws, the Ventures as well as the Cramps had also covered Werewolf. Also released as a little bit of a teaser before the full album came out, included a music video of a spiral that is very hypnotizing if you watch it for long enough. Another one of those great instrumentals, one of three that finds a home on Worship the Sun. Recurring and Ferris Gallery started it off my favorite instrumental track of 2014 and a contender forever. A beautiful song, huge soundscapes and no lyrics, but still the listener understands what's going on. If you know the history of the Ferris Gallery, the art gallery that was famous in Los Angeles in the late 50s through the mid 60s, just absolutely beautiful. I can't really say much more about it than that. Now that we are done with the first half of the album, it is time to take on side B. 7 more tracks remain. Normally just 6, but there is another bonus track. Gonna have that one in this musical break. Miles Machad, the frontman of All All Laws, at one time had his own radio program on KXLU radio in Los Angeles, in which he had the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. graveyard shift, would later go on to the 9 a.m. to noon time slot. He used the show as an excuse to invite his friends on the air with him and play records that were favorites or ones they had recently discovered. The show got canned, unfortunately. They said mainly because of the material that they were playing, but it still lives to this day in the form of an online podcast. If you go to reverberationradio.com, you can check it out. It's great. One of the best parts of it is seeing the influences that the All All Laws take. You can see them in the playlist. Each week there's around a 10-song playlist, about a half hour in length. From listening to the songs that they put on there, the music that they personally listen to, but all of the inspirations that they've got. Everything from Link Wray to the Sir Douglas Quintet, Mac DeMarco, Bob Dylan, and Los Psychos, a Peruvian punk rock band from the late 60s. It's very interesting, so check that one out. reverberationradio.com. Let's get side B started off. In this break, we're gonna have Every Girl to close it off. That's the bonus track. 501 415 before that. A nice, short, quick song released as a single before the album came out. Follow You Down. And the first song of side B of Worship the Sun is Buffalo Nickel. So here it is. It's the Front to Back podcast. I'll be back in 4 songs to start the second half of side B. Hope you're enjoying so far and continue to.
you'd intend. Try it again. Above all else, I thought you knew the course you chose to follow through. But time, it seems, felt differently about just what you'd come to be. See, things do spoil when left aside, no matter where intentions lie. Now no hard feelings resonate. I only wish you didn't break. How was I to know you come around? Follow you down. How was I to see what you'd intend? Try it again. Fortunes crossed the knotted ways. I went about my daily days, but now the fortune has returned. I can't forget all that I learned, and all those pleasant yesterdays I cherish but will have to stay in the past as memory, only for mind's eyes to see. How was I to know you come around? Follow you down. How was I to see what you'd intend? Try it again.
Every Girl, that's one of those bonus tracks on the album that I sprinkled in. Released as a 7-inch single before the album came out, backed with I Had It All, which was a song played earlier on side A. Proud to say I own that one too. Picked it up when I saw All Laws live in Dallas at Club Dada. It was a great show. I look forward to seeing the All Laws again. I hope it will happen soon, but it seems like they are always touring Europe. I never get the opportunity to see them. 501 415 before that. The first single released on the album back in June of 2014, accompanied by a music video, which, according to Noisy, the music subsidiary of Vice, might prove that your parents were cool once. A very retro look on the video, the appearance of old film being used, not digital film capturing. Noisy said, the gist of 501 415, summer fun and a blast from the past, fueled by hints of classic rock but staying modern. 501 415, the shortest song on the album, only about 1 minute and 45 seconds long. I have noticed during recording sessions and studio performances at radio stations such as KEXP that they have extended it by putting a little 30-second jam onto the end of it, just to kind of close the song out a little bit better. I think the new version just sounds a little bit more polished, but I'm not going to play that one. I'm going to play the album version on the podcast. Follow You Down before 501 415, and started off side B with Buffalo Nickel, a beautiful song that once again encompasses a sound of the region All Laws hail from. Experimental sound, not afraid to try new things, but tying it all back to the spirit of California, Los Angeles in particular. So we are officially done with the first half of side B. Only 3 songs remain. Up first is the third instrumental track that will be played on the show, Yamini Jade. Worship the Sun, the title track after that. And the last track, Better Than Mine. So let's go ahead and finish off side B of All Laws, Worship the Sun, with Yamini Jade. I'll be back in 3 tracks to close this puppy out.
My vision is clear, my mind paves the road I ride. I don't need my eyes when it's all dark outside. I feel you so far away, the stars are in a line. Minutes turn to hours, and don't worry about the time. I don't know what I see, I believe, and I know where I belong, 'cause I worship the sun. My vision is clear, there is nothing to decide. I'll stay in the light or let life pass me by. For I am an ocean, an old familiar sound. I know that one day I just won't be around. I don't know what I see, I believe, and I know where I belong, 'cause I worship the sun. I don't know what I see, I believe, and I know where I belong, 'cause I worship the sun. He held the stool far back some dark bar and coddled quietly his tumbler filled with gin. He motioned my way and turning sideways, he told me, son, now listen in. I've seen it roll by more times than most try. It never seems to fail or alter in its course. You're at the doorstep, you haven't slipped yet. You could be golden evermore. He told me always there's some time just to wonder about a foreign land or days of old, and admit it to yourself if you should blunder, and always strive to take the higher road. His eyes grew wide now, he drank his gin down and said he had to learn this all the hardest way. Beware a cardinal sin, take that which you put in and savor each and every day. He told me always take some time just to wonder, and always come to question what you're told, and to love without condition those who wander, for it's they who come to pay the higher road.
Better Than Mine, a track that reminds me heavily of a Bird song, Wasn't Born to Follow, off of the notorious Bird Brothers from 1968. And one of the few songs that uses a major chord progression as opposed to a minor chord progression on the album. The title track, Worship the Sun, before that, very dreamy, very expansive, much like the song that was before that, Yemeni Jade, the third instrumental that finds a home on the album, and a great one, very beautiful. The soundscapes, capturing what the All Allahs want, which is the spirit of California. And with those three songs, we are officially done with the All Allahs' second album, Worship the Sun. It has been a good one, a journey through sounds associated with the state of California, the greater Los Angeles area, the hills of San Francisco, the entire state of California in a nutshell. And I think that's what the All Allahs wanted to do. They wanted to capture that. They didn't want to go crazy after their first album. Kind of wanted to stick with that sound that they have definitely not invented. It's been around since the mid to late 60s, but expand upon it and do their own justice to that sound. I hope you have enjoyed Worship the Sun as much as I have. It's one of my favorite albums of the last couple years. Just very relaxing, very easy to listen to, very good music for a road trip if you are ever in need for something fun and easy to listen to. And if this is your first experience with the All Allahs, check out their very first album, their debut self-titled album that came out in 2012. It is a fantastic album. I highly recommend that one just as much as Worship the Sun. Like every week, I like to close out the show with a little snippet from a review of the album that has been covered, and this one comes from a site called Nothing But Hope and Passion, who reviewed the album. Gave it a 4 out of 5, and I thought this was a nice little description, a great way to sum up the album. Quote, Worship the Sun is a solar sculpted shell buffed by waves from decades past, leaving the taste of salt water on the tongue and the memories of windy beach evenings rustling through the hair into the autumn months. End quote. Make sure to come back next week, where the album will be the self-titled debut of one of my favorite Ty Segall side projects, Fuzz. It's going to be a really fun show next week. I'm very excited that my process of random selection has landed on Fuzz, and we'll get to explore another genre that is completely different than the one of the week before it. This time it's going to be stoner rock. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure to like, comment, and share. Show your friends, show your music listening buddies, your family, anybody you know who enjoys exploring new music. Look forward to seeing you next week. The Front to Back podcast is now complete.